Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Twilight Zone review. Today it is Season 5, Episode 14, You Drive, written by Earl Hamner Jr. and starring Edward Andrews as Oliver Pope. And I have mixed feelings about this episode. On the one hand, I would say that this episode does not really have that great of a premise. A possessed car is not that interesting or believable, in my opinion. On the other hand, I actually think the execution of the episode is probably about as good as it could be for such a weak premise, and the episode is kind of entertaining, so I'll get right into the episode. So we start right with Rod Serling's opening narration, which is very interesting, and he tells us a little bit about our lead character Oliver, and he also tells us that his mind is not on driving like it should be. And in one of the more disturbing Twilight Zone moments, I have to say, Oliver hits a kid on a bike and he runs off. He doesn't tell anyone, and we will find out the status of this kid later in the episode. So Oliver now goes home and he's in a bad mood, which I guess is understandable, and I have to say, his wife is pretty nice to him about this. She tries to help him get in a better mood, but he's just really crabby and he won't have anything of it. And after a while, something happens in the garage. And it turns out that the car lights start flashing, and his wife thinks there must be an intruder, and Oliver uses the excuse that it must be a faulty connection with the car, so that's fine. So we go to the next scene, and we find out that the kid isn't doing that well, and then it's nighttime, and the car horn starts going off. So when Oliver goes out to investigate, no one's there, and it seems like the car could be doing this on its own. So Oliver gets pretty freaked out, which is understandable, and I think we see where this is headed. So the next day, Oliver says he's not going to work. He tells his wife he's not feeling well, and once again, this horn is going off on its own, so it's pretty much more of the same. But it doesn't feel too repetitive. The episode builds up pretty well. So then his wife says, I'll take the car. I think she says she's going in to get it repaired, but the car stops on her in the middle of the road and it won't start at all. And we find out that that is because she was on the same corner where the boy was hit. So she goes home and tells Oliver what happened. She says, I had to get the car towed, and Oliver's questioning everything. He's concerned because the police were there, and he's obviously concerned that he might get caught. Oliver doesn't realize he's not going to win this, and he should just turn himself in. So the car is supposed to be in for repairs, but all of a sudden it winds up in the garage. So Oliver thinks this is weird, and he calls the repair shop and says, did you guys bring it back? How did you fix it that fast? And they say, no one drove the car back, so how did the car get there? So Oliver's got to be pretty concerned about this point. So we go to what's about the halfway point of the episode, and a man named Pete comes over, and it turns out he works with Oliver, and he helped him out. He did some of his work for him, and Oliver gets real mad with this guy and accuses him of trying to steal his job, which I thought was kind of weird. So Pete yells back at him. They argue for a brief time, and Pete says, I'm sorry. He tells Oliver's wife, I shouldn't have yelled at him. I'm upset because a kid in our neighborhood that I knew, he was the one that got hit, and he passed away. So we find out the kid didn't make it. So Pete leaves, and things get worse for him as a witness falsely accuses him of the crime. So now Oliver's pretty happy with himself. He's thinking that he's going to get off the hook, except that he once again hears noises in the garage. And when he goes out there, he gets freaked again. He's just not too happy about this. You would think he would be doing something about this by now, but apparently not, because nighttime comes and there's this loud music playing, and Oliver's wife says, oh, it must be the neighbors playing music too loud. So Oliver investigates, but we all know by now that it's the car, and when Oliver goes out there, it changes to the news, and it's talking about the accident. So Oliver does something. I'm not sure if he breaks the radio or just turns it off. I wasn't sure, but he does that. He definitely smashes the lights, which are going on and off again. He does something to stop the horn, but nothing seems to be helping Oliver. But now he's pretty confident because he pretty much destroyed parts of the car that it probably won't be able to do this anymore. So we go to the next day, and Oliver tells his wife he's going to take the bus, and she says, why? He says, because I'm going to sell the car. I don't trust it anymore because it's old and it's breaking down. Blaming the car, I don't think is the problem, Oliver, but whatever. So at this point, Oliver leaves, and the car pulls itself out of the garage and starts driving, and I think we know who it's after. And all I can think is, what does Oliver's wife think at this point? We don't see her anymore. She's got to be pretty freaked. So the car finds Oliver, and I have to say the effects are pretty good for the mid-60s. The car driving by itself, it looked about as good as it could. It was okay. So Oliver sees the car. At first he starts walking, but then he starts running away from it in an okay scene, and the car chases him. And it looks like Oliver's about to get hit when he falls in the middle of the road. That's actually what I thought was going to happen the first time I watched this. So it's a pretty good twist when the car stops and Oliver gets in, and he basically goes to the police station and turns himself in. So in the end, the car wins, I guess. So like I said, if this episode sounds a little bit strange, it is. The premise is really out there. This is one of those episodes you just have to go with. And if you do, you might buy into it and enjoy it. If you don't, it's not going to work for you. I'm kind of in the middle. I would say it's a well-executed episode for what it is. So for that reason, I'm going to give You Drive a 2.5 out of 5. Just an average episode that some people may like, some may not. So 2.5 out of 5 for You Drive. And as always, thank you very much for watching.